See some familiar faces. Anybody new here that's not been here before? Great. Sure, you all must be getting tired of me by now. They have to find some new people here. Until they do, I will have to do. This subject is one that I went and started looking at it, and I wrote War and Peace as part of my preparation. And then Eric told me, we have to finish at 8. So I had to cut it down because it's such a dense and pregnant subject. Um, uh, for those that don't know who I am, my name is Antonio Figueroa. I'm an architect, and I have my own practice of architecture in New York City. And I'm one of the things that I do is try to integrate the values that we have here, the Brahma Kumaris, into the professional environment that I live, that I work in. A very daunting task. And I've been a merely Raja Yoga student now for over 20 years. So I'm not going to say how much over because it's for you to date me. So this subject is one that I find really, really compelling because it's very dear to my heart. That changing colors, changing times. That's so much meaning, especially now that's the fall season. And when the subject was raised and they asked me to do this one, I really was very excited about it because change, which is a word very difficult to define, unfortunately, it happens to be the most prominent feature of our existence. So here is something that is absolutely critical to the way we function in the world. Nobody really knows what it means. So hopefully we'll have some idea, some notions of what at least I think change means. And my theme was change is the agent of our life, which I really feel is the case. And colors mark the change of a season, and values mark the change of time. Both of these things are very beautiful and very challenging. So the first thing is, what is change? What do we define as change? That has about 15,000 answers to it, right? So we'll start with what I think it is. Generally, it means, from my kind of perception of things, that it means that we're observing or experiencing something different than a previous experience or object. Ultimately, something has to reach into your consciousness that somehow defines as change. And we experience things externally and internally. So change has a lot of dimensions to it. And as we all know, change comes to our life unbidden. We don't ask for it, it comes. It's not something that we say, okay, I'm ready for change. That never happens. You'll have to deal with it as it comes. Our bodies grow, our minds develop, our relationships flourish, our environment expands. These are all measures of change that we experience. However, they come for a reason. And the ultimate purpose, I feel, is to make the transformations we need to live our life. Without change, it's really not possible to move forward in life. It can't be static. That's true in physics, it's true in science, it's true in every field. So from the time we're born to the time we die, there is constant movement, transformation, redefinition. Our cells change, our cells renew, our cells die. I mean, there's all of this stuff is happening to us. And if we are fortunate, we embrace these moments of change and we experience growth. At least that's what's defined psychologically, growth. I always thought that was a vaguely cancerous term, personal growth. I always thought, what does that mean, growth? Aside from someone becoming an adult, I'm not sure that means anything, but that's how it's defined. But it really is not growth, it means change. And it's change in a specific direction. I was talking with my daughter recently, and my former wife remarried, and her husband had a heart incident, and things were very kind of difficult, and his future was a little bit uncertain. And so I was telling my daughter, I feel very good that I haven't changed that much. Things, stable for me. And she quickly told me, "What are you talking about? Who do you think you are? I mean, what do you mean?" And she pointed out that I've lived many lifetimes in the time that she's known me, which obviously is less than the time I've been on Earth. She said, "How can you say that you're like, that you're like, haven't changed? You haven't, I didn't say I haven't changed, but I've been basically the same. I didn't experience all these terrible things." And she says, "No, that's not true. You're not anything like, you say, you think you're, um, so I felt like I'm pretty much a normal guy that's just, trying to get along, move along in life. And I don't perceive things as really major changes or kind of little increments of change." And she says, oh no, you're very mistaken. That's absolutely not true. So, but I thought I was just getting by, just getting through. And then as I'm thinking about this session, I'm saying, ultimately, getting by or getting through is not the point. We just don't get through. That's not the way it works. Um, we're here to learn, to understand, to help, raise kids, marriage, help our parents, help our siblings, help other people, and ultimately to make the world, at best, not make it worse than when you found it. There is a term that we use here called ahimsa, which is translated badly into English as nonviolence. What it really means is do no harm. That's ahimsa. Do no harm. Violence is not even part of the vocabulary that we're talking about. And I really find the whole concept of nonviolence very problematic. And I grew up when nonviolence was a movement in this country and abroad. And also, the other reference is Hippocrates and his admonition to physicians, laying out the credo by which physicians live was, first, do no harm. So if you're a doctor, don't make things worse. I think the pharmaceutical and medical industries have forgotten that. Okay? Well, that's another discussion altogether different. So first, do no harm. Seems like a modest goal, right? Not hurt people, not hurt yourself. But it's not. It's actually a very major task. Not to hurt yourself, not to hurt other people, to move forward as you move forward in life. It's very hard. We make so many mistakes. It's the nature of being human. unfortunately, is to do things that hurt yourself and other people. So it's not a small thing. It's a very simple statement. Do no harm. No harm to yourself, no harm to others. Seems very simple. I like simple things like this. They have no simple. There's not simple at all. There's no simplicity whatsoever to that statement when you apply it. It's only its nice words. You can say it. So, so basically, the easiest way to define change is the one that comes from the outside. Okay, we don't do it. It happens to us. It's registered by the senses and hopefully absorbed by the mind. Fortunately, some people that's not the case, but that is essentially the routine. The external change is informed by the quality of the environment and the external experiences we have. One of the most extraordinary things in this process is we learn to appreciate beauty. One of the most extraordinary privileges that human beings are granted in this world. Sometimes we lose sight of it, we lose track of it. The beauty of all sorts is one of the perceptions that we have that's unique to us. That's part of our senses. And that is the way we look at the world, and it's a unique privilege given to human beings. No other creature in this universe has that. Souls don't have that. Only we have that. Only human beings have that. We embodied souls can appreciate beauty. You have to think about that. Because you have eyes, ears, nose, mouth, skin. So beauty is a privilege granted only to us, only to this species of the millions of species that have existed in eternity. And we also learn to appreciate the intensity and force of the world that exerts upon us, which gives us a basic lesson on how we can develop and go forward in life, have will, have energy. So these are the external things that we experienced that are part of the change and also fuel the change. These are unique things to us. Fortunately, very often people don't really appreciate this. So that's one definition of a definition of change. And if we accommodate it successfully, or if we do it correctly, if we accommodate it correctly, we don't do it in such a way as to make it a negative thing, we call it success. If the accommodation is not quite complete, not proper, then we're called complex. Complex person, may be difficult. And if we don't do it at all, we'll call failures. Because we have completely ignored the realities of the world that we live in. So those are the things that kind of put this in context. Change happens. But what's important is how do we react to it? What do we do about it? And later on, we'll talk about how do we take advantage of it. Most people manage this process successfully and consider themselves fortunately, and hopefully they're grateful. Or most people who manage this process successfully should consider themselves fortunate and grateful. However, This is primarily effectively responding to a future proportion of life. Trouble is that some people are not afforded the opportunities and options a lot of us have experienced and enjoyed in our life. So how will those people's lives, the ones that are constantly assaulted by life, by limitations, by obstructions, by disease, by tragedy, how do they change? But they do change. So that's kind of what happens outside of us. What does that mean? How does that in some way inform our existence? The more complicated aspect or definition of change is the one internal. What happens inside us? And more importantly, that's the one that generates change. That's the one that takes us forward and puts us in control of the process. The great Western philosophic cry, I don't know if it's a part of the cultures, I don't recall hearing this in India, but it is, we are the masters of our own fate. Big, big reference in American and Western society. Masters of your own fate. That's the goal. That's the future that you want to bring to yourself. So that means you're making the change yourself. It's not just happening to you, you're making it happen. Here, we're not talking about sensorial reactions. It's about values, how they're created, how they evolve. So it's a much more complex and subtle process. Appreciating the change around you, looking at the colors that change from summer to fall, which is, by the way, only happens on the North American continent. No other place in the world has this riot of colors that we experience here. I have friends from all over the world, and they said there's no place in the world that has this kind of experience where you see the landscape changing in such incredibly brilliant and intense way. It's very, very special. So this is external. The internal change, more complicated. And it's at this point we have to talk about the concept of time. When we are talking about our internal mechanisms for change, not our reactions or perceptions. And there is a bunch of expressions about time. As I was thinking about this, I thought, what do we say about time? We say, wrong time at the right place means you're not getting there. Right time at the wrong place means you're getting there. You may not go into the way you want, but you're getting there. You're there. And of course, the right time and the right place means you hit the bullseye going forward. But in all of these things, time is a measure of accuracy. Right time is accurate time. When you act in an accurate way. It's very important. You have to observe language. Language tells us a lot historically about how we live, how we think. So this term's about time. Every expression we have about time is about it being right, being accurate, being perfect. And when it's the wrong time, everything else will be perfect. You're not getting there. You're not succeeding. So time is a measure of accuracy. And it's very important when we talk about the concept of change. Okay. So what does that have to do with values? Very important. But I wanted to get the point about time because values are in many ways associated with that. My sorry, I mean wrong sequence. Um, my basic point about time and values is that we need something that's called faith. Okay, that's a critical quality of values. Now, faith has a lot of has a unique has a not unique has a connotation of being something in terms of a commitment to a dogma or social structure that ostensibly was spiritually derived. A man of faith is, or a woman of faith is someone who believes in a particular religion. Most of the time, it doesn't have any spiritual context. It's basically man of faith, Catholic, Hindu, Islamic, that follows the strictures, the rituals of a particular religion. But that is not, I believe, the limitation of that particular word. That word has encompasses everything about our existence. Faith. Before we talk about faith in a spiritual sense, faith as a tool by which we function. Because if you don't have faith, you can't even get up in the morning and face the world. And unfortunately, there are a bunch of people that probably most of us know they can't do that. They get up in the world to face, they get up in the morning to face the world and they can't do it. They have no faith that they can do anything. It's a very, very sad and tragic part of a lot of people's lives. So faith to me is one of the basic underlinements of values if we want to move forward. Not just faith in some deity or faith in something transcendent, which obviously we're not lacking here, but faith as a quality in your life. So we have to have faith that we're going to go graduate from high school, that we're going to get into a good college or a reasonable college. You have to have faith. If you don't have faith, you don't go. You don't do anything. You're paralyzed. That you're going to get a job. You're spending all this money in college. You expect you're going to get a job. You have faith. Then you have faith when you get the job that you're going to do it well. These are things you have faith when you meet someone, when you fall in love, the most extraordinary quality of faith. Faith is the underlying value of change, that underlying quality of values. And values is how we change. So that is, to me, the fundamental point of us moving forward. We have to have faith. Faith in ourselves as human beings. Faith in humanity, faith in the community that we live in, or else we become renunciates living in the woods because we can't be with anybody. And ultimately, faith in something beyond ourselves, something transcendent, faith in God and a supreme being. These are the critical qualities of faith. These are the things you have to have. These three um, aspects of faith. Now, there are three of them because they're very important to how we function. Because if you have faith only in yourself, it can be a big problem. Because you live in a world with people. And if you only have faith in yourself and you don't trust anybody else, what kind of life is that? If you don't have faith in yourself, you have faith in other people, the rest of the world, then you're taken by whoever goes, whatever way you think you're following them because you have faith in them, but none in yourself. That's another road that may be a problem. Fortunately, that's a road that a lot of people take when they lack faith in themselves. And it can be a very big problem. Matter of fact, one of the reasons for a lot of the challenges and tragedies that we've had in the world. And ultimately, faith in something transcends you, something, God, supreme being, something that's beyond you. We need that to find out where we are at this moment in time to figure out where we're going. There's a quote that I love. It's mentioned often in the Brahma Kumari lessons by a Swami Vivekananda, who is one of the fathers or one of the founders of modern Hindu spirituality. Many people think that Hinduism is something that was very old, but there was a current interpretation of it that Vivekananda and his mentor Ramakrishna and a bunch of other people at the same time began to reinterpret the scriptures in a way that was more modern and more related to people's values and how they dealt with each other people. And Vivekananda had this quote that to me is the most telling quote, most insightful. He says, "The atheist who helps his fellow man without expecting compensation or reciprocation, altruistically, that atheist is closer to God than the devout man who doesn't." To me, that's a wonderful quote, because what he's saying is, if you're a good person, God's not letting you go. He's going to get you sooner or later. All right? So you have faith in yourself, and you have faith in the rest of humanity. He's going to get you at some point. He's not going to let you go. There aren't that many good people around, so he's going to get you. This is what we have to do for change. We have to know where we are, believe what and where we are, to then be able to say, okay, I'm going to do something different. Otherwise, we're just marking time. We're just marking in step, following whatever else anybody's doing. Going along with the flow. As if there were no personal investment in defining the quality of our lives. So the only change we experience is what's happening outside. That gets boring after a while, especially as I'm getting older. I realize that what was exciting for me 30 years ago doesn't mean anything now. Gets old. Watching the world go by gets old as you get old for good reason. Okay, it's not a failure of us. It's actually a good thing. For some people, that's enough. Actually, for many people, that's enough. They just want to get by, go along, but certainly not for the people that come here. Otherwise, they would be here, which is one of the great things about doing these programs. To move, to evolve, to grow, there needs to be this self-reflection. Can't do it any other way. Doesn't happen any other way. You don't get from here to there by watching something happening over here. It doesn't work that way. What's happening there can be exciting, can be beautiful, can be engaging, but it's not going to change you. It even happens in relationships. You have a partner. Partner's exciting, vibrant. That's why you're there. That's why you're with them. This woman or this man is extraordinary. Meanwhile, after half a lifetime, you realize something's going wrong. That's because he or she may be changing, but you're staying in the same place, watching them change. That's not a good place to be. Because at some point you realize you're not in the same universe. But you're distracted and you're excited by watching this dynamic person do all these things. And you're saying, okay, I'm with this person. So you think that's taking you along. That's not the case. And I think a lot of relationships are affected by this particular situation, by this ignorance or sometimes just outright stubbornness not to admit something different, not to admit to change. But change happens all the time. It happens scientifically, biologically, environmentally, whatever you define, it happens all the time. So the question is, how do you deal with it? Okay. How do you make it work for you? Problem with marking time is that you're not really changing. You're just adjusting to the moment. So often we think, well, I've done this, I've moved forward in this thing, I've done this, I'm doing whatever's been required in terms of my job, in terms of my relationship, in terms of people, my family, but you're just marking time. You're not moving forward. You're staying in place, even though you're moving forward, because change is moving all the time. So if you're just, okay, I'm just dealing with things as they come along, I'm reacting to them effectively, you're not really changing, you're adjusting to the change that's happening around you. For you to change means you have to project yourself into something. You have to say, okay, I'm going from here to there. I'm not following something. I am going from here to there. It's a statement that you make to yourself. This is where I think I need to be. Most important, it's an act of will. You may be wrong. You may be mistaken. But at the end of that effort, you will know what you did. You will know if it was a mistake and you will have learned, or if it was a mistake, you will have gotten the benefit of it. But will you not be an observer? You'll not be watching the world go by, beautiful and pretty as it might be in your context, but you will be a part of it. You will be a part of that world because you are acting on your own volition. It's very important we act on our own will. We have faith in our own will. Now, animals, plants, all of nature has acts in a particular way. Trees grow, plants, flowers grow. There is a intent. Everything that you observe in the scientific material universe has an intent, except the things that we create. Those things sometimes are not so great. But if it comes from nature, it has an intent. For some people, that may be enough. But you need to have an intent, a will to change. There has to be recognition of where you are, and then that you want to do something. A decision, good or bad, going forward. So you need to have will. Then if you want to talk about qualities, you need to be honest. Brutally honest. I always feel that I can say I have 20/20 honesty. When I do an action, I'm moved by whatever emotion, whatever reaction I was having. But in retrospect, I feel that I never fool myself, that I always look at it and say, okay, you were being a total jerk. Okay. At the moment, I thought I was being brilliant, but in reality, I was a total jerk. At least there has to be honesty about yourself and about the things around you. There has to be the will, and obviously, there needs to be faith that you're going to go somewhere. This is the basic quality that I feel is the fundamental engine change. And I'm trying to avoid this, but I can't. There's a quote from a poem from Robert Frost that I absolutely adore. And I'm looking for an opportunity to use it. And you guys, unfortunately, were selected. Robert Frost is one of my favorite poets, and he writes deceptively deep material. It sounds like he's talking about countryside and horses riding into the fields, but he's talking about something much, much profound. And he says, when to the heart of a man was it ever less than treason to go with the drift of things, to yield with grace to reason, and bow and accept the end of a love or a season. So this phrase that seemed like a throwaway phrase from one of his poems, he's saying, can't go along because then you're being a traitor to yourself, a traitor to what you love, a traitor to what you want. And he's saying it in such a way that you can take it at many levels. So I'm glad I had an opportunity to use this poem, which I love. So we have two aspects to change. One, when we observe it, it can be extraordinary, it can be beautiful in nature, in the world, in other people. It's something that is wondrous. But the other aspect is how do we internalize the process of change for ourselves? And for that, for the external world, we have to be observant. We have to look at things. We have to be honest about what we see. But internally, critical thing is you have to have the will and the faith. Some cases they go together. You can't have a will without a faith. So those are the qualities of this particular subject that excited me. And we still have some time, so I'd like to open up to questions since I'm talking nonstop. And I'm hoping this has some resonance in your own situation. Do we have a mic that I have to go pick up? Someone bringing it down? Does anybody have any comments on this? Now that I forced you all to listen to my poem so that I feel. Yes. Oh, I don't know. It's a Robert Frost poem. I don't recall it's part of one of his opuses. So all his poetry is beautiful. So, but um I don't know the name. If you're really interested, I can find it. But okay, it's the most famous one is the one about I have the ones that was in the second movie about the Manchurian Candidate. A Woods are dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. That's another one of his lines. It's very famous because it was used in a movie. Any other questions? Comments? Reactions?
Hold on.
A few good people?
All people good. We might decide to do things that aren't acceptable to them. But we all have a good part inside us.
Okay, I'm sorry if I gave the impression about there's only a few good people. What I was meaning when you're talking about the reference about Vivekananda was Vivekananda basically said that it's not faith in God is not enough. And that was one of his themes. Faith in God, which was very powerful force and certainly in Hinduism, right, was not adequate. There had to be faith, action, reflecting that faith. So for him, faith and action were one. They were not separate. And he wanted to make sure that people understood if you have faith and you don't do anything, of what value is that faith? That was his position. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I meant it in that.
Thinking without action doesn't get you.
Yeah. And so he was saying that in terms of spiritual terms, he says, in the terms of the spiritual scale, the person who is altruistic and helps other people, he is as valuable spiritually as the priest that is just one himself and not doing anything for anyone, or more valuable actually. He said he was clear. He's more valuable. Okay, so that was to me one of the most powerful kind of definitions of a faith, where it's not faith. Faith is not one thing. Faith is a whole compendium of values that you need to integrate. So, and I still think that's one of the most extraordinary quotes. Anybody else? No comments? A reflection. What does that mean? Okay, that's just more talking by me. See what you guys did. You have no questions. Now you're gonna have to listen to me some more. This is like, it's really pathetic, you know. It's you have to. Very, very good. Since you don't have the mic, this lady said that her father said you have to keep the faith. It was one of his credos. And then her husband says, if without faith, there is no hope. And I'm glad you mentioned that because that, in fact, is the case. Faith is more one of the qualities of hope. Hope by itself can be helpless, can be just a wish, whereas faith is an action. You're doing something. It's not just hope. That's a really important distinction. I'm glad you brought that up. Faith and hope are not the same. Faith with hope, now that's something. We all hope for things. I hope all kinds of things. I hope my clients will turn into decent human beings. I hope my staff might actually do what I asked them to do. I hope all of these things. That's hope. So it's a really important distinction. I'm glad you raised that.
We have a
Thank you. It was a big help.
we have a question from those who are online. If I can read that.
Yes, of course.
Can the feeling of faith be substituted with hope, belief, excitement toward passion for, which also drives people and gets them out of bed each morning? Feeling of faith be substituted. Hope, excitement, passion.
If you have hope, excitement, passion, and what was the last one?
Belief, hope, excitement.
Okay, I mean, that's just a definition of faith. So, faith is a complex value, and everything that's described in there put together very much falls into faith. Faith is a compendium of things, it's not one thing. And was the point I was making with Vivekananda's reference. Faith is not enough. Faith has to have all these other things: passion, hope, expectations. All these things have to be in part of the package. It's not either or, they're the same. That description is faith. They're not a separate thing. You guys are getting very used to me because there used to be a lot more questions when I started doing these things, you know. Now nobody says anything. I guess they're very tired. Eric, we have to get more people here. So this is got to get people more kind of engaged. Okay. So let's go to the reflection. As we wind down our consciousness, we can feel pulsing of the blood in our veins, in the heart. Feel its intense, continuous rhythm. We sense how it moves our limbs, how it sharpens our senses. As we move inward and pass through this extraordinary vessel we call our bodies. We begin to appreciate these extraordinary qualities that are our senses, how precious and valuable they are. And as we keep moving inward, we can feel the rhythm of our bodies begin to slow and calm. Like the soothing of a cat, the body begins to purr when it senses that we are focused on it. Becomes relaxed. And still. It yields. Graciously. To our consciousness. It stops agitating, demanding. Because it has your full attention of your consciousness. The body knows. As you go deeper into yourself, You are becoming one with it. So it ceases. To look for your attention. It knows you are with it. You are one. Gratitude for your recognition. The body begins to free your consciousness. Let go of its many tentacles on it. The sensitive retreat. Moving, blinking. Knowing they are observing the real you, that they are witnessing center of their specific universe. They know. They understand. They cooperate. Letting be. Beginning to feel peace that is central to our existence. As souls. In this still moment, that seems like time dissolves. This moment, we are free. To summon a will, summon all entities that are part of Deltones. Tendons. Septums. Those in this consciousness that you begin change. That is your life. Shanti. Only 5 minutes over, Eric.
Om Shanti, and thank you, Brother Tony. Thank you, and I hope your life is full of change.
You know
And,
what?
And we do have our World Meditation Hour on Sunday here, 6:30 to 7:30. Every third Sunday we do that. And next week we have a brother from Spain, Enrique, special presentation. So hope to see you Sunday, hope to see you Thursday, and may every day be full of wonderful change. Thanks. Om Shanti.